Pork shot.
Pork chop.
Right there.
Pork chop.
Pork shot. Hey everyone, welcome back to Sal's Pals for episode 2, Attack of the Clones.
Oh,
Yeah.
On topic.
Yeah.
I understood that right.
It is, yeah. As a reminder, this is Bryce.
Back again.
Aaron. It's also Aaron Mitchell. And then we have our new pal.
New pal.
New pal to Sal's Pals, Jolisa.
Welcome, welcome. Even
And
though
then-
this is your place.
Yep. Jolisa is
Welcome
not
home.
replacing Liz on the podcast. She's just not here today. She's not feeling well, so she will hopefully be back with us next time. So today we're going to talk about my favorite movie, which is Star Wars. So we'll start with the prequels, I suppose. So they are. I think they can be fun movies. What?
I said they're listed on my shirt.
I know what they are.
See
Okay.
them all up there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I know what movies they are.
I don't.
Oh.
I know they're 1, 2, and 3.
Yep.
Yeah.
Star
I struggle
Wars.
with the names.
Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, in theaters on May 3rd.
Wow.
Yeah, for its 25th anniversary.
Disney won't pay us for the plug.
No, they
Sorry.
won't. No.
We're
Go
actually
to
gonna get
cinemark.com
copyright.
Yeah.
now.
Yep. I hope you got the date right, though, right?
I did.
Yeah.
Okay. good.
Because
Like
that
we-
Saturday is May 4th.
4th, yeah.
True.
Because it's May the
May the
4th.
4th.
Yep.
Smart.
Revenge of the 5th.
I got that whenever behind the scenes we were planning screening together, and then you were like, "Yeah, we could go May 4th," and I was like,
Yep. That's when we're going to go watch it.
Gonna
yeah,
be
my
busy.
parents have gone to Disneyland on May 4th, and I was
Oh.
like, "You are brave people."
Yeah.
Yeah, that's got to be terrible.
They're not even big Star Wars fans. Like they're like, my dad's like a moderate fan. My mom could care less, but
They didn't have that whenever we went to Disney World.
Yeah, I was going to say I haven't been since
No.
the addition of, what is it, Galaxy's Edge?
Galaxy's
Is that what
Edge,
they
I
call
think. Yeah.
I've
Yes,
been when
they
it
did.
was like,
No, they didn't.
They
Not yet.
had like the AT-ATs and stuff out front.
They had something that was Star Wars related, but they've since redone it.
And you
Does
could
it-
buy lightsabers, I think.
Yeah, but it was different.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
Disney-
it's-
I went New Year's 2016 to 17,
Mm-hmm.
and they had some Star Wars stuff, but they didn't have any rides that I remember, or I
Yeah.
didn't ride any.
They had
I
the
just
Star
remember,
Tours that's been around for decades.
That's
Yeah.
probably what I'm thinking of.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because it was Disney World that I got my autograph picture of Darth Vader.
Okay,
So-
Wow.
is World in Florida,
Florida.
and land? Okay,
Yeah,
so I went
lands
to
in
Disneyland, and that.
Yeah, I don't know
Yeah,
if
you're
Disney's
right,
tried
yeah.
anything then.
Yeah, I've been to both. So, because we went for band as well. So, yeah. So,
Shout outs to the Rose Parade.
yep. Episode 1, Phantom Menace.
Phantom Menace.
All about politics, getting you set
yeah.
up for the whole ride. You got
So,
Jar Jar Binks.
I had this existential crisis about this movie. Who is the Phantom Menace?
the
'Cause,
Phantom Menace is Sidious.
Okay, that's what I was. That's what my brain led to. But like initially, like gut reaction, like 8-year-old me goes, "Well, it's Darth Maul. He's the villain,"
Yeah, but I
If
think
that makes sense.
in my opinion, it would be Sidious, the one behind
He's
the
like
scenes,
controlling the strings.
pulling,
That's what they're trying to figure out
yeah.
because they're always like, "This guy works for somebody else."
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to figure it out. Anyways,
I think Phantom Menace is a decent movie. It can be a little boring with the politics and stuff, and the use of the CGI is a little over the top. So he was, it was 99. He was trying
Yeah.
to get going with all that, and then Attack of the Clones is so cringy, just so
The
cringy.
whole love story is cringy.
Yeah,
well, I can say in my opinion, I think that Phantom Menace is the one that is the most like hard carried by John Williams' score. Like it's the same, mostly the same. Like he innovates new stuff, but like every single time somebody's like, "Oh, I love Phantom Menace," like you think of that lightsaber duel and like Duel of the Fates, like everybody immediately brings up the soundtrack for that, and it's like that's probably like 50% if not more of what makes that scene like awesome.
oh yeah, that scene is great. I mean, going from the original trilogy where they had some lightsaber fights, but
They weren't choreographed. They were
yeah, and it kind of
Standing
goes
there
almost a
with
little over the top.
just-
Yeah.
I would say it goes very over the top, but
Yeah.
that's probably, I mean, like, we're talking, like, Matrix era, so, I mean, people are going for it. you
Yeah. I mean, it was very cool. And yeah, Duel of the Fates with it, like, it's very impressive.
know? Did The Matrix come out before this? I know they were both 99, because...
Yeah, The Matrix came out. It might have been the same summer, so
Yeah, I don't know. I know Star Wars was May, or I'm pretty sure it was May.
It makes sense. It's been at least a decade since I've seen The Phantom Menace and probably Attack of the Clones. That's the
Attack
second
of the
one?
Clones,
Yeah, Attack of
yeah.
the Clones.
It's been a minute since I've seen Attack of the Clones because it is just so cringy and I just can't stand it.
I rewatched them all last year. For reference, I looked it up. There's a month and a half difference. The Matrix came out March 31st, and Star Wars came out May 19th.
Okay,
So a month and a half,
gotcha.
which isn't enough to have any influence on
No.
it. But I mean, like, people are still riding that
Yeah.
mania of like, oh my god, these people are so awesome.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then Revenge of the Sith, I think, is a very cool movie. So it's the opening scene with a space battle, like, was very cool.
Very different.
I think Space Battle
Yeah.
was fun. I don't think it particularly aged well. Like, you know, like when you're watching it and you're like elementary, middle school, and you're like, oh my god, this is like the coolest thing ever. And then I watched it, like I said, last year, and I was like, the seams are showing on this one.
Yeah. I mean, it was 2005, so
Yeah.
it was a long time ago now. But
Yeah, that's the first Star Wars film I remember seeing in theaters. So I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if I had seen the other two beforehand, but that one I do distinctly remember being a big theater moment. Everyone
Yeah.
dressed up. It was a huge deal. And yeah, everyone was excited the whole time. So
yeah. Well, I mean, it's supposed to be the last Star Wars movie that came out.
yeah.
So, because he wasn't going to do a 7, 8, and 9. So it was a big deal. It was, that was the last Star Wars. Like, that's it.
I remember, and then 2015 came around. It was like,
Yeah.
like that was.
Well,
We'll get there, but
and then, of course, they released the Clone Wars movie that came out in like '08 and
Yeah.
did awful. So,
Yeah. I don't
you're
even
talking about
remember
like the
that.
animated Clone Wars movie. Is that right? I've heard like a lot of. I watched the Clone Wars series when I was younger, but I never like finished it or anything like that. It was like one of those things that like you just went home and if it was on TV, you watched it.
yeah.
So,
I mean, I've heard a lot of good things about the Clone Wars series, but the movie,
Yeah.
I have
Movie's
not heard
different.
good things about it. So,
aren't there like there's some ending that they came out with recently? Are those not movies too? I know those are like complete like decades later, so decade and a half later. But
I have no idea.
I'm not sure.
okay, I didn't know if they like did like a couple episodes of it. I don't
Like
know.
Bad
I just
Batch
remember,
or something, or
Yeah, they've
I know Bad
made
Batch
more
came
shows.
out. Yeah.
I don't know what that one's about.
but I think they like had like a finale. I could be completely wrong. I'm talking secondhand conversations with my brother, who's way too into the Clone Wars series. So
Yeah, okay. They did the final season.
That might have been
they're-
it,
Yeah,
yeah.
because it wasn't ever made, and then they went ahead and finished up Clone Wars.
yeah.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I just didn't remember if it was a season or just like a couple episodes or like a movie.
I think it was a final season.
Okay.
So I never watched Clone Wars, the series or the movie. So
The only thing I remember is Ahsoka and Asai Ventress.
oh yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's I
The
could be
bald
mispronouncing.
chick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just remember because she had two lightsabers, and I was like,
Oh, the same way.
that's so cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, sure. We'd be making up names, and I have no idea. Yeah.
Like,
Well,
yeah, that's
they don't-
right. You
they
got
don't
it.
really try. Like,
Yeah.
I'll dig out here, but for Solo, there is a character called Therm Scissor Punch, and he's literally a crab.
Okay.
Like they're not trying with
Yeah.
names.
Yeah.
It's like
of course
what
that's
Pokemon
Disney,
does with
so-
their new Pokemon. They're just, what does it look like?
Klefki, let's make it some keys, you know.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I remember watching Phantom Menace in theaters.
Yeah.
And then I remember they released Attack of the Clones in IMAX, but that was before we did feature-length movies in IMAX, and so they cut scenes out of it
Ooh.
because it
That's-
was
I've never heard this.
yeah, and because it was too big to fit on the platters at full length. Because at the time, IMAX was still just like 40-minute documentary movies and wasn't like feature-length movies like it is now. And so I remember watching it, and I don't remember what scenes they cut out, but I remember we watched it in IMAX, and I was like, this is
It's probably just a 40-minute Geonosis fight, and that's it. Like,
right. No, I mean, it was the
maybe
majority
him
of the
rolling
movie.
through the droids and whatnot.
Right. It was the majority of the movie, but I just, because I'd already seen it, and I just distinctly remember they cut stuff out of it. So, and then I don't really remember seeing Revenge of the Sith.
They
in
keep the love
theaters.
story.
Oh, I'm sure. So,
Gross.
and his wonderful dialogue. So,
What is the age difference between Anakin and Padme?
5 years.
Just 5 years?
Yeah.
I just
Really?
remember as a
Oh,
kid
Yeah.
watching Phantom Menace going, that's a
Really
kid.
young.
So
And
okay,
she
because like
seems older.
yeah, because like you watch Phantom Menace and like Anakin's like 10,
Yeah.
but like 9.
Yeah, he's 9,
You're
she's
telling me
14.
Padme's supposed to be 14 in that?
Yep.
Oh.
She's like
She
literally
was like 18.
She
Yeah.
literally clears like
I'm
she
having
20, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to tell because I was a kid when I saw it, and I haven't really rewatched it with that kind of a lens going, oh, what's the age gap here?
Yeah.
I just remember, I mean, when you're a kid, you're like, oh, the height difference. That must mean the age
Right.
difference, too.
Yeah.
Plus,
I
he
just
was
thought-
he was a young
I just
kid.
thought it was
Yeah.
Hayden Christensen on both, and they just like
Yeah.
fed him milk in between
Yeah.
movies. It was just-
She goes, Annie, you've grown. Got milk, Ed.
the entire Star Wars movie, but Hayden Christensen has a milk mustache.
I remember
Yep.
that crap.
Yep.
But yeah, she was like 17 or 18 because I remember something
Yeah.
like she missed the premiere because she had like finals or something
Really?
like that. So, but
I mean-
still, she definitely was not 14.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you could time date it because in my head, you could time date it because I don't know when Leon the Professional came out, but that was like the huge first Natalie Portman film, and she was like really young.
yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean,
I remember seeing Qui-Gon Jinn thinking he was super old too. I don't know why.
He
as
was
a
in
kid,
like his 40s.
He wasn't that
he?
old. Yeah, like Liam Neeson. You know, he wasn't that old.
God,
But
no.
in comparison to young Ewan McGregor
Yeah.
and Anakin,
What-
I was like, oh, he's an old Jedi.
Well, and I think part of it too is he already had gray hair.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I don't know if he did naturally, but like they made his hair gray if it wasn't. And so I was like, oh yeah, Qui-Gon's old. So and then Puppet Yoda.
Puppet
Yoda did not.
I'm not remembering
Puppet
Yoda.
was the original trilogy, right? And then
No,
You're
like
talking
they, but they
like
tried to
CGI.
like no, they tried to like de-age
I think it was
Yoda
both.
with the puppet in
Yeah.
episode 1, and it did
Because
not.
he's sitting
I
at
thought he
the
was just-
council, right?
Yeah,
I remember
okay,
that.
this could be revisionist history of me just only watching like the George Lucas cuts that came after with all the updated CGI because that's what I grew up on. I never got any DVDs before that because
they did replace him with CGI.
Well, I don't know if they've ever
if I've
released
seen that.
the the original versions on DVD.
Yeah,
Because
no,
I remember my dad had them on VHS, and anything DVD afterwards was with special effects added.
I didn't see the skipping ahead a bit. I guess I didn't see the original cut of Return of the Jedi until like last year.
I've
Like,
never seen the original cut.
Yeah, I had to like
I've got
sail
them
the
on.
high seas for that one. You know, I
Yeah.
did not find that one.
I've got them on
through-
VHS. If you'd
Really?
like, yeah.
Well, I
Yeah,
think
borrow
even
Us and what VHS player, man.
hey, we
can
got
find
we
it.
I
got
have
a
one.
yeah, we got a
We
VCR.
got a VCR, not
I
VHS.
don't know
I've
if I
got
would
Titanic
trust
on
it,
VHS.
Yep.
Yeah, we've got
We'll
that.
see. My
I
dad
mean,
made
I
mine,
love my
mine are
Disney
literally just
movies.
shelf decorations. I literally
Mm.
bought them for like $2 at a secondhand store. So
But now I think even the VHSs have the new, like
do have
even
some.
the VHSs that I've seen were the special editions that have the new ending on Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
It didn't have Hayden Christensen, but it had the new ending
Yes.
on Return of the
Yep.
Jedi. And I never knew that there was like a different song originally at
This is
the end.
well, and like that's the other thing of like I grew up and I came to this like reconciliation when I was like 16 of like talking to my dad. I was like, oh my god, I just realized it was never called like Star Wars Episode 4. Like it was just like
Star Wars.
Star Wars.
Yeah.
Or in like, you know, The Empire Strikes Back and like Return of the Jedi. I was like, that's like complete revisionist. Like 1999, they went back and like, okay, that's 4. You know.
Well, didn't they have episode 4 on the crawl? Or did they add that
no,
after
the
fact?
original crawl was just Star
Oh,
Wars.
Okay.
Yeah, and they
Well,
went back
it's
and
like-
redid the crawl to say episode. I do think that Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi were put out as 5 and 6 originally,
That's what I'm.
but 4
remembering.
definitely was not. Like he never thought he would make the rest of them.
Yeah, because like
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a small thing, but like whenever I'm on Letterboxd and scrolling through them, it'll be like Star Wars Episode 1, Phantom Menace, you know, yada yada, and then it'll just be Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, and then it'll go back to like Star Wars.
Episode
The
7,
Force
Force
Awakens.
Awakens.
I
Yeah,
forget
because I
those
don't think they
titles.
had them in the titles either. It might have, even if it was numbered like that in the first 2 sequels. I think it was only in the crawls and not necessarily.
Oh yeah,
part of
you're
the
right.
title.
Like Force Awakens was advertised as just Star Wars Force Awakens and Last Jedi.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then in the
They only
crawl it
include
said
those.
like episode 7, episode 8.
Yeah,
Crazy.
Yeah.
it's the thing when you put episodes out of order, but I don't think they had planned
I
that.
think
So.
there's
Yeah.
intention.
No.
At least prequel series now have the decency to not try to rename their series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll rate each trilogy. So okay, so in our first one, prequels, it's got to be top 1 is Revenge of the Sith, episode 3,
Yeah.
and then Phantom Menace, and then like way down here is Attack of the Clones. Like I really
You
can't
really
stand.
hate that one.
I really can't stand. It's above Rise of Skywalker. It's not my lowest, but I do not like Attack of the Clones.
I'm
I-
not
I was
remembering
gonna
it enough.
I don't think I could split hairs between Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. Like I
Really?
think they're both just like, ugh.
Oh no.
Because like I mean I get objectively that Phantom Menace is like a better movie. Rough quotation marks around that, but I guess you say it's not a better movie. It's just not as bad, but I still don't want to sit down and watch it. Like I remember there was like growing up, I had the 3 DVDs of the prequel trilogy, and like me and my brother literally burned episode 2 and 3 into the ground. Like the episode 3 disc like stopped working. We never touched episode 1. Like we just did not want to watch it at all. So
Interesting.
I feel I would agree with your ranking of those 3, but like I said, it's been a long time since I've seen episodes 1 and 2. So 3
Yeah.
obviously is the top for me. I don't know where I would fit them, but from what I'm remembering, yeah, even if it's just the highlights of like the John Williams score and the better choreographed, fight scenes, I would put Phantom Menace over just for Darth Maul being a badass too.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah.
say I mean what's the client?
But
I mean,
when
the
does Mace
Geonosis-
Windu show up? Because that
That's-
also I remember.
Isn't he in episode 1?
Is he in?
For a
Mace
little
Windu?
bit?
Yeah, he's in all
Yeah.
3. of
Okay.
them.
Yeah, okay.
Well then, yeah. We'll
In
keep
the
one.
first one, he's just like in the council.
Yeah, he doesn't do
chambers,
anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, second one's whenever he shows up for the fight on Geonosis.
Yeah, and I mean that was
And then he
cool.
cuts off Boba Fett's head. Not Boba Fett, Jango.
Jango Fett.
Yeah. There are good things about that movie. It's the love story part of it is just George Lucas does not know how to write a love story. Like, okay, so how do you rank them?
Probably the same, but I only watched them because I was with you. So,
Yeah.
like, I hadn't seen
Amen.
them. I take that back. I watched them in high school. I think we watched Phantom Menace as like the teacher didn't want to do anything today, so here you can watch this.
Gotcha.
I always ask for Dead Poet Society in that situation.
Gotcha.
What a,
Never
yeah,
seen it.
A very different film.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure. That's just that
Yeah.
was my go-to
Good
summer
movie,
movie. You
but-
know,
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I think I watched it again when it re-released in 3D,
Yep.
and then
Before Disney bought Lucasfilm and they were going to release all the Star Wars movies in 3D.
and that was the only one they did.
Yeah, they only did episode 1.
I don't remember that.
Yeah. That was like 2012-ish.
I was about
makes
to say because they got bought out like 2013, 14.
Yeah.
Because I mean they had to get bought out and then start working on the new stuff. Because there's no way they started working on episode 7 before it was bought out.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, and I've only seen them with you, so
Gotcha.
maybe once or twice.
Yeah.
Like,
That's fine.
I was going to say, in terms of like ranking, I would agree on all that. But if you're ever like just sitting on the couch and wanting to put one on, I don't think I would choose any of those 3.
No, which leads me into the original trilogy of, like Empire Strikes Back is my favorite out of all of them. So out of all the Star Wars movies, as far as like the actual episodes. So I really enjoy Rogue One, which we skipped over, Solo and Rogue One. So Solo I've only
We
seen
can
like
go back.
once
Yeah. I
or
haven't seen
twice.
Solo.
It's okay.
It's got Childish Gambino. That's
Yep.
I
about
forgot
it.
about that.
It's
There-
Lando.
I like young Chewie. He's not really like young.
No, he's just
but,
Chewy.
He's just not gruff yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The ending scenes were cool. So you guys have had
don't
plenty of
remember
time
it.
to watch them. So spoiler
Yeah.
alerts if you haven't. But Darth Maul is at the end of
I
Solo.
know Darth
Oh,
Maul
right, right,
comes
right.
back
And
to
so it was
Solo.
just like that was a cool like tie-in to like the Clone Wars, and so I got really excited whenever Darth Maul was at the end of it.
And then his ass is gone again.
Yeah, and then I
Never
just
seen
went
it, and that's
nowhere with it after that. So I was a little disappointed. But that was like the coolest part of the movie was just seeing Darth Maul at the end of it,
I
and
just
that
remember
says something about just there being a cameo at the end, and
Yeah.
that's the coolest part of the movie.
the only thing I remember is them. I mean, it just felt like story beats of like them just trying to be like, oh, what are all the things like they literally like watch
They
the original
mentioned.
trilogy and they're like everything that Han Solo mentioned that we never show. Let's just show all of that in order.
Yeah,
And then, like, the only things I actually remember, other than them justifying them not knowing what a parsec was back then, is the poker scenes of him playing poker with Gambino and winning the Millennium Falcon. That's
Yeah,
literally all I remember.
yeah. It just felt like fan service the whole time. Like,
Yep.
yeah, like they were just trying to. I don't know.
It's definitely
Was-
a Disney production over like a George Lucas
For
production.
sure.
Yeah,
For sure. It's
very
content.
much.
It's content.
Yep.
Immersion.
Like, what
Nice.
is the most popular character from the original trilogy? Arguably, Han Solo has kind of taken that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, like, that's the whole thing of, like, that's what that's the pivot they made is, they were doing Rogue One 2016, 17.
Mm-hmm.
Then they did Solo in 2018, and they had whatever lined up for 2020, and then the pandemic hit, and they flipped to streaming, selling their services, TV shows. That's the pivot now. So I mean, like all the TV shows now are what would have been the movies, in my opinion.
The next film set to release is in 2 years, I think.
Yeah.
The
doing
Mandalorian
more?
and Grogu.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because The Mandalorian and Grogu is the only
Which I'm
confirmed
kinda-
film, I think.
I'm kind of excited for that one. So
I'm hopeful. But
yeah.
I
I
don't
mean, they're
know
doing a
much
trilogy
about
with Rey.
it. They are?
Yes.
Are they?
What?
Or at least one movie with her, like
didn't
where
know
she's
this.
training
they
like
did a trilogy with her.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
They
no, so
did.
she's gonna be like training Jedi. Like it's
Oh.
set like after Rise of Skywalker, the movie
Okay.
that no one asked for. So
does series ever die now?
no, they just
No.
run it into the ground.
Lord
Like
of the Rings, Rings of Power.
I thought we
Yeah.
already
Like-
ran this into the ground. Like, why
oh,
are we...
they're keeping it up
Yeah.
because certain TV shows have done well. Like I really enjoyed Mandalorian. I enjoyed Andor.
Kenobi.
Kenobi. Like the last episode was fantastic.
As long as it makes money, they will keep making
Yeah.
more.
and their non-disclosed
Yeah.
funds that they get.
Yep.
Yep.
I'm glad at least for Solo they didn't pull an Indiana Jones and just DH Harrison Ford.
Oh,
I know he
God,
wouldn't
yeah.
have agreed to it, so
Yeah.
that's one
I
thing.
mean, the
but
only reason he agreed to Indiana Jones is because he actually likes the
Yes,
character
yeah,
Indiana
he likes
Jones.
Yeah.
and he still, I think, plays the character well. It's just what he's given to play is
Well-
not as good as it used to be.
Point to the line where Harrison Ford ends and Indiana Jones begins. It's the same dude.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that's just
So that's
him.
good.
So
And
But,
then Rogue One, great movie.
I really
Like,
enjoyed
I
it.
love Rogue One. So
I've only seen it once in theaters and once like a month after it came out on DVD.
Mm-hmm.
So it's still been a long time since I've actually seen
It'd
it.
be like 2017 when
Yeah.
it came out on DVD.
But
Because that
from-
again, throwback to the Disney trip that I had. That's on New Year's Eve. They took us out to a movie theater and we got the choice between Rogue One and Sing. I was like, which theater my ass is sitting down in. Like,
yeah. Okay, so back to the original trilogy then.
Yes.
So Star Wars, like Episode 4, is fine. Like, it doesn't hold up super well, especially with all the extra revisions that
Yeah.
George Lucas has done
For
to
sure.
the whole original trilogy. Like, I get that technology kind of caught up a little bit, but it's just such a odd, like, the difference in like the old original practical effects and then him coming back adding in digital CGI stuff that just doesn't match up. But that being said, I enjoy the original trilogy. Like none of them are on my bad list. Like
I was gonna say, I mean, like the closest to my bad list is Return of the Jedi, but I mean, even then, it's like it clears as
In
a passable
comparison.
movie.
Yeah.
I mean, in comparison, it's like the original trilogy is like head and shoulders above everything, aside from, in my opinion, maybe The Force Awakens, but that's like a whole other. Yeah, that's another barrel of monkeys. But
Yeah.
I firmly agree on the Lucas cuts, the revisionist, whatever.
yeah.
Because even as like a young child when I was watching those, and like you get the scenes of like there's like the iconic one of them driving the speeder and like that one animal like completely covers the screen, you know, like even as like a elementary school kid, I was like,
What is that?
what's going on?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
You know?
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like it's just stuff like that you're just like you just scratch your head and you go, what are you doing? And then like you become an adult and you realize, oh, this guy wrote the worst love story ever. He doesn't know what he's doing. It's
Yeah.
like,
Well, and then of course the constant like who shot first
Oh,
and
the
then-
amount of
cares?
re-edits
and then whenever
to that
Disney
scene.
did it, adding in the stupid McClunky.
I bet you have. McClunky.
Like
what?
I don't even know
I
what
don't
this
know
is.
this.
before, so you
Once
know,
again, are you
there's-
making up a name? McClunky?
I don't know.
Is that
so
real?
You yeah, no, that's real.
don't know
like,
anything about
This is the bit, by the way.
Okay.
This has been text on screen. We're making shit up on the fly. And
Oh,
you're
right.
the victim.
I knew it.
no,
I'm right
so
there with you.
Like, I thought it
Okay.
was Star Trek this whole time.
oh, okay. So you know the scene though where
does Picard
where
come
it's
in?
Yeah.
where it's Han and Greedo, and they're sitting there. So the green alien
Yeah.
and Han,
Yeah.
and it's
I know Greedo. That's
okay.
I don't
So
know.
I don't know what the other
now,
one is, though.
now right before he shoots, he goes McClunky and then shoots, and it's just like Disney was the one that added that in. Like this is a revision after Disney took over, and it's just like, what does that even mean?
I've seen a
Like,
YouTube compilation of all the different versions of Who Shot First.
Yes.
Because, to be honest, the only reason that was an argument was because people could only watch it in theaters. So you're either watching it and paying attention to who shot. Now you can just look and see
Yeah.
who shot first. That's why they've had to re-edit so many times, because they have
Well,
to
and
make
then-
it look like it actually is a difference. I don't actually know who shot first because I don't think many people cared.
Yeah,
It was
well, the
just
thing was-
That's the big thing. Like, who cares?
Yeah, well, and you started to get some people, because you've always got the Star Wars haters, like that. No matter what happens, they will find an issue,
Self-described.
an issue with it. And so whenever it was like, well, Greedo shot first, well, it's like, well, no, Han would have shot first, and so they change it, and now Han shot first, and they're like, no, that's not in his character to just kill him whenever he's not being threatened or
I
whatever.
think that would be in his character.
Yeah, and then I
I
think
mean,
they went back
if you
to
say
Greedo.
McClunky before, he's gonna shoot. Like,
Yeah, it's like,
I mean,
well,
that's a tell,
Sure.
right? Like,
but
somebody says
You gotta say
McClunky, you just shoot. Is it
Yeah.
Greedo that says McClunky?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
you
I mean,
don't stop
look,
saying it.
Then
If somebody
shooting
s-
words.
Look,
Yeah,
I
it's like, you better
That's what I'm saying. If I'm
stop
sitting across
saying
the table at IHOP from you and you say McClunky, like,
it's an
McClunky.
automatic,
Alright.
like, you're done.
I'm sorry. Like,
Is it a slur in the
I
galaxy?
don't know.
Maybe.
That's like the first time I've ever even heard that.
Your
once.
Millennium Falcon is a McClunky. How
You
dare
didn't say
you.
that about my Millennium Falcon. You McClunky.
now we're just gonna make this into a slur.
Yes.
Yep. Anyway,
Jesus.
so my ranking, Empire Strikes Back. I don't know why my mind just went completely blank on that for half a second. Yeah. So, and like I say, Empire Strikes Back is at the top of all of them.
Such a strong start with Hoth.
Yeah, like it's a great movie.
Ending.
And of course the "No, I am your father" spoiler alert again. So if you don't know
I said
that,
it
like,
before,
come on.
I mean, it's such a central part of the cultural zeitgeist.
Yeah.
It's probably
Everyone
like
knows.
the most quoted thing
And the
ever.
most
Misquoted.
misquoted. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people say, "Luke, I am your
Yeah.
father," and it's "No, I am your father." So
Which I think the original line of like the one that they used at practice was like
was
Obi-Wan killed your father.
yeah.
And then like
Yep.
the whole like famous Mark Hamill story of like
yeah,
you know
him on
Yeah.
Graham Norton. Is that the dude's name?
Yeah.
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 them telling like we'll know it was leaked from you.
Yeah.
You know like. Which
Yeah.
honestly, that's like a ballsy thing to do. That's pretty
Yeah.
like that's one of my favorite like behind the scenes facts, even though it's like so it's such a popular one and all that. But I mean, it's just like
There's a
it's
lot of
cool that
really-
they were like they went that far to hide it. Like
Mm-hmm.
the only other thing I can think of that like went to that extent was like the Russo brothers with Endgame being like, you know, okay, like we get it, you guys are gonna watch the movie, give everybody like 3 weeks before you start talking about it. Like just please. Like they just went out and asked, which that's
Well,
more
wasn't
on the
their
public side.
tagline was like "Thanos demands your silence" or something like that?
I don't remember. I just remember that they came out and they were like,
Say.
please.
No, it doesn't say it on there. They were just putting it on like social media and stuff.
Yeah. I think I remember
Okay,
that.
and then so after Empire Strikes Back is going to be New Hope, and then after that is Return of the Jedi, which I put Return of the Jedi at the bottom of the list. I don't dislike the movie.
It's just not as. it's
Yeah, I
not
just
as
like the other two
enjoyable.
in that trilogy more.
That's,
Yeah, I just think all this. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
I was going
but
to say, once again, for me, I do think Empire Strikes Back is the top, but I don't remember as much difference to me from Return of the Jedi and A New Hope. To me, they're about equal to. That's
Yeah.
because I haven't seen them as much.
I think my thing is just like I find all of the stuff at Jabba's palace to be a little slow. Like it's just
Yeah.
fighting the Rancor and like I don't. It just
The Ewoks
I
take
think
it
I'm
down
on
a
the
notch.
other end. I think I enjoy the Jabba's palace stuff, but the Ewok stuff like that drags on forever.
that does go for a
and
while.
like at the entire point in the climax, you're just like waiting. You're like, oh my god, this fight with Luke and all this. Like you're like so invested in that, and they're like, let's go back to
cutting.
Han and Leia. Look at them. They're hugging the little kids in teddy bear costumes.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're just like, I don't
Slingshot
care. I
throws at
don't.
stormtroopers.
You're literally like, I don't care. Just
Yeah.
get back to it, and then we can get to the space
Yep.
thing at the end where
Yeah.
you know we blow up the Death Star for the second time.
Well, and there is some kind of stupid stuff with like you mentioned that with like slingshotting a stormtrooper. They just take a rock and like
Just
swing
throw
it
it.
around and hit the stormtrooper, and they're like, "Oh, I'm dead."
Yep.
And it's just like that. Some
Yeah.
of the stuff is just kind of stupid. Like they would have
yeah.
never
And
taken.
in Return of the Jedi with Boba Fett just falling into the
Yeah.
Sarlacc pit. Is that what
yeah,
it is?
Sarlacc. Yeah,
All these names are just coming back for the first time in a while.
That's the
I don't know how I
crazy thing.
remember.
That's the crazy thing to me about Star Wars is like how much cultural osmosis this thing has. Of like, it's not just like everybody knows like the main characters. Like, you know, you think about like the Matrix, and everybody's like, oh, I know Neo and Morpheus, and then it's like, okay, there's like the next layer of like, you know, oh, do you know like Trinity and like Follow the White Rabbit, and then he goes down.
Agent
but like there were like
Smith.
Agent Smith,
Yeah.
yeah. And then there's like 4 layers of Star Wars that are just like common cultural knowledge. Like, you're telling me Greedo's a character that shows up for like 5 seconds
Greedo's name.
in the 4th movie, in like, I guarantee
It
you, like
says McClunky.
75% of people. Nobody's gonna know McClunky. That's a couple layers deep on the iceberg.
Everyone's gonna know McClunky now.
But yeah, I mean, like, it's just common knowledge to know the Greedo Han debate, you know, like that kind of thing. Like, it's just crazy how deep the culture is, like,
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
permeated, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
But in terms of my ranking, I mean, I'm going to go the same. Be boring. I mean, I think A New Hope is closer to Empire Strikes Back than a lot of people give it credit for. But
I mean, it started
I definitely put, like, you know, Empire Strikes Back, A New Hope, Return of the Jedi. Like, if I'm turning on a Star Wars movie, I'm turning on 4 or 5.
Yeah.
For ranking posters.
So I'm going to be the odd man out because I don't
Beautiful
like
poster.
that trilogy.
Oh, yeah. Because it's 70s, because it's all
Yeah,
old
it's all
school.
old
like,
school, and like it
70s
all
and
blends
80s.
together to me
Yeah.
for
That's fair.
whatever reason.
Yeah.
So he's like, "Oh, this happened in this one." I'm like,
if you say so.
I don't remember that, but okay.
That's how I am with the new trilogy. It all
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of
See, I
blurs
like
to
the new
me.
trilogy. I mean, it still blurs, but
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's get into it. Let's open this can of worms.
They are
here
very
with-
distinct chapters in the
Yeah.
story
Yeah.
and the saga.
and they're very
prequels.
like, I don't know. I mean, as far as ranking goes, I'm gonna say Force Awakens, and then it's gonna be Last Jedi.
You got to go 7, 8, 9. Like,
Yeah.
it's got to be.
Yeah,
think that's
and then
most
like
people,
my
too.
absolute least favorite Star Wars thing ever made is Rise of Skywalker. Like I
he
cannot.
hates Rose.
Rose
Um,
Tico.
That's Last Jedi, for the most
Yeah.
part.
Well, yeah, and because her character was so hated, they barely even put her in Rise of Skywalker. But yes, that's
I'm curious, did Carrie Fisher have more screen time as a dead person?
yes,
Probably.
I think so. Yeah.
Probably.
So
Possible.
yeah, and then of course that scene in Last Jedi, where because at this point she was already dead, right? Like she had like Carrie Fisher had died whenever Last Jedi
Oh, yeah,
came
yeah.
out.
I think so.
I believe so.
And so it was like it could have been the perfect send off of like all these different original trilogy characters died. Like she's out in space, like, and
I remember she died as Rogue One was in theaters. 'Cause I
Yes.
distinctly remember watching her at the end of Rogue One,
Correct.
coming out of the theater,
Correct.
checking my phone and seeing that Carrie Fisher had died.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
whenever
'Cause-
that lines up with
Because
release.
I was mentally mapping it myself. Sorry, I was doing the weird
Yeah.
hand thing. But because like again going back to the screening of Rogue One, New Year's Eve I was in California, and it was a huge deal to go down the Star Walk of Fame, and like people had like flowers and stuff on all there, and people were like kissing it, which you should not do. You have no idea what those homeless people have done to those squares. Like, to those squares. You have no idea what's on those.
They were
So
doing
do
what to the
not-
squares?
It doesn't matter how much you love Whoopi Goldberg. Do not put your lips on that, for the love of God. Anyways,
yes,
but yeah, that checks out
Whoopi
in terms of.
Goldberg. Why did
Well,
she
she's the
jump
center
to-
star.
She is?
I think so.
Is she?
Whoa.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
How did she get that? Good real
So,
estate.
but yeah, no.
Poor
So
planning.
at this point, Carrie Fisher had already died, and so it's like it could have been a good send off. And then they do this flying through space. Leia can finally use the Force and flies through space, and then is unconscious for most of the movie.
That was Last Jedi still.
It was
yeah,
Last
yeah.
Jedi.
Yeah, okay.
and
Yeah.
and then set Finn and Rose off on their stupid side quest, and then the fact that like Holdo won't tell Poe.
Okay, that was not English. What was
Holdo
that
won't
name?
tell
Holdo.
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 General Holdo. The Holdo
Won't-
maneuver. I
that Laura
remember
Dern?
this for
Huh?
some
Laura
reason.
Dern?
Laura Dern's
Okay.
character.
Laura Dern. Another
Yeah.
little
Forgot
side.
Laura
Yeah,
Dern.
that General Holdo
Why,
won't tell
Laura?
Poe.
Purple hair.
Yeah,
Right?
Yes.
yeah, won't tell
Yeah.
Poe what the plan is, and that's what, and it sets him off on the stupid side tangent, and it's
Forgot
just,
Oscar Isaac.
and then
There's
now
so many
like,
people.
and then now like, there's a issue of fuel, which is for every other movie never been an issue. Fuel has never been an issue, and now suddenly they're going to run out of fuel, and there's just, I have issues with Last Jedi. I think Luke training Rey was cool. I definitely was upset whenever you have this big build up at the end of Force Awakens. He's got tears in his eyes. She's handing him the lightsaber, and it's like this moment. And then you start off with that scene in Last Jedi. No tears anymore. just grabs a lightsaber, throws it over his shoulder, and it was like, wow, thanks for just.
You can really tell that they just handed it off from one writer to another, and he's like, let me do.
Yeah,
my
he's
own
like,
thing.
I don't like this, so I'm literally just going to toss this idea out the window and do my own thing.
Smells like Disney corporate boards to me.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Everyone
so,
knows.
and really, like, I would be fine, and I've said this before, like, I would be fine if Last Jedi had continued with the direction that it was going into Rise of Skywalker, or whatever Episode 9 would have been called. Because, like, okay, I get it that, like, they wanted to do something different, and, like, the whole thing with, like, Rey's parents are nobody, and so, like, anybody can be force sensitive, and, like, anyone can be a hero, blah, blah, blah. But a problem with the whole trilogy is to start it off one way, change directions, and then go back to Rise of Skywalker and try to undo everything.
Yep.
And it was so terrible. Like, and then, of course, at the end of Rise of Skywalker with, they're on Exegol, like, all the ships are trying to take off, and here come all the rebel ships. And it's not like 20 or 30 ships. It's literally just copy-paste thousands of times over and over and over and over and over.
Space is big. That's what they were trying to show, I think.
Yeah, and it was just...
It's J.J. Abrams. Like, that's just, like... He's like, oh, well, I'm going to do A New Hope, but it'll be a bigger Death Star.
Yeah, this time
And
it's a
then
whole planet.
This time, you thought one of these ships was deadly? How about 1,000,000 of them? Because I've got evil force powers. It's, like, it's literally... He writes like a middle schooler, And it's just sad.
Yeah. And that's really my big thing with all of it is just the back and forth. Like, it could have been cool. Like, I enjoyed Force Awakens, even though it is kind of just a rehash of A New Hope. I enjoyed it. Like, I remember...
It had strong characters to start.
Yeah.
Like, they had potential.
Oh, yeah. They had so much potential. And, making it out to be... I didn't even mind so much that, like, in all the advertising, Finn was the one with the lightsaber. And then you find out, oh, actually, it's Rey that's the one that's going to have the lightsaber and is the one that's force sensitive. But, like, they were obviously leading it in a direction that Finn is force sensitive as well. And to just completely waste his character was ridiculous.
You can tell from the end of the Force Awakens and that final fight scene in the woods. Like, that to me was like the best part of the sequel trilogy. It's just seeing the different fighting styles from people who don't know how to use the Force and who just happen to have it or not, I guess. I just remember showing the Kylo Ren versus Rey, like it had potential. That's all I know.
Yeah.
I'll be weird for my favorite. I will say my favorite moment probably from The Last Jedi, and I think it's literally just everything that happens between Rey and Kylo and like that situation, because I think that's like interesting of like having them
talking to each other,
to each other in the weird like that pull of like pulling him back towards the light side and pulling her towards the dark side, and like kind of like I think that interaction's super fun, and I enjoyed the fight with Snoke and all that at the end, and I think the climax of The Last Jedi is the most well orchestrated part of the entire trilogy.
But to me, it feels like another sci-fi movie. It doesn't feel Star Wars. Yeah, that whole fight with Snoke, it looks great. It's very unique, and I think that's what they were going for.
No,
but yeah, it doesn't fit into what's bookended by with the Force Awakens and Rise of Skywalker. So what you're saying, if they would have kept kind of with that, it might have had a better.
Yeah, it could have been fine. It was the fact that they went from one writer to another one, then back, and each one was trying to undo the movie before it. Yeah. And you can't have a coherent movie when your start of your movie is trying to undo the previous movie. Like, it doesn't work.
Yep.
Yeah, I am sad that we will miss out on the original script that was pitched to Adam Driver on this. Don't know where that is or what it is, but he's come out and said that it was originally supposed to be like, he was supposed to go like further and further to the point of being like basically like Space Hitler.
Yes.
And that's what he was like, that was the original plan, was for him to like off the deep end, rather than having him as a redeemable character or anything like that.
And then my final complaint about Last Jedi, my biggest complaint about that movie is, you had, and I'm not going to say what I've said in the past, but you had Finn ready to sacrifice himself, like ready to make the noble sacrifice. And then Rose like stopped him. And then,
stupid.
and then the whole like, no, silly. We don't what is it? We don't win by like defeating those that we hate. We win by saving those we love. And it's like, no, you win by defeating those you hate, the bad guys. Like,
Well, you just gotta love the bad guys harder than they.
There you
hate
go.
you,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Them.
Yeah.
That's what happened to Kylo. It
Yeah.
can work.
I mean, do you not remember in episode
was supposed
6
to be
whenever Luke walked in and just gave Vader a hug and they talked it out?
Yep.
I mean,
And then a Death Star just spontaneously
there was
exploded.
no
after
there was
that.
no anger or emotions or anything.
yeah.
It was just a healthy, productive environment for sharing your feelings.
Yeah.
Jabba just needed a hug
Yeah. There you go.
with a chain around
I
his
don't.
neck.
I was gonna say I don't think anybody's got a wide enough arms for that one.
Yep. So, and in Rise of Skywalker, I don't know if I even really want to get started on that one
Yeah.
too much because it's just I don't think a single redeeming thing about that movie. Like
I remember walking out of Last Jedi going, that was cool. I think that was weird. That was different. That didn't feel like a Star Wars movie. But I remember walking out of Rise of Skywalker going, oh no, that was not good. People are going to be mad. What are they going to do from now on? Every single movie has a lot of quotes that, like you said, like are just in the zeitgeist of culture. Like everyone knows so many quotes from Star Wars, even if they haven't seen it. Even
Yeah.
if they misremember some of them.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
I
and
would say even the new movies had those kind of quotes.
and I don't even mind that
Not for the
Palpatine.
good, but
I don't even mind that Palpatine was cloned and made a return because, like I've said before, like that was in the original books.
I
Like-
misheard. Mater returned. I was linking the Cars universe to Star Wars. I was like, we watch different movies.
well, no, that's just real life. Larry the Cable Guy
Yeah.
is the final villain. You know?
I honestly forgot he was a clone. I've only seen Rise of Skywalker once in theaters. I've not seen it since. So
Gotcha.
everything I'm remembering is immediately that theater reaction. So
Yeah.
I don't
and-
know why I've subjected myself 3 times, but
So my ranking. So you've got Force Awakens, Last Jedi. I think I already said that. Rise of Skywalker. So
I agree.
yeah, I'd give I think like Force Awakens. I think I'd have like a 6 or a 7, and I think that's like fondness and nostalgia. That's the only time it's gonna creep in for me because like it was a huge deal in 2015 when that movie was coming out. Like it was like
It's the
it was
highest grossing
insane.
in domestic box
Yeah,
office.
it's the highest grossing film in the United States ever as of
Yep.
as of 2024 or whatever.
well,
We'll see how the Mandalorian and Grogu.
I'm excited
Does.
for that one. So
I think it'll do decent.
yeah.
I don't know if it's going to be the renaissance that Star Wars might need to get back into the theaters.
Spoiler alert: it will not.
Probably not.
Pedro Pascal will bring people in.
I would put my
Yeah,
life
yeah.
savings
Yeah.
that it will not. It will not be.
Man.
100.
Yeah.
I'm 120% positive. There's no way Star Wars returns, like to
Yeah.
any form of like what it was before Rise of Skywalker. There's no
There's
way.
too many
No.
people who are
With
done
Disney,
with it.
Yeah.
Like, and that don't trust Disney to do Star Wars correctly anymore.
I mean, and the other thing is like the only people who are still into it are the people who like grew up on it and all this. Like my nephew, who's been born after this trilogy's like over and all this, like he doesn't have any attachment to the series. Like
Yeah.
the only people who are still going up, if they continue with another trilogy, it's going to be people who are like 60, 70, and like eventually those people are going to like age out of going to theaters or die, and like you're just not going to have anybody.
Which is the reason I think that they marketed so hard with Force Awakens. Like, oh, look, the original people are back, at least with Harrison Ford as Han Solo.
Yeah.
And they just were kind of holding on to that, like, nostalgia play rather than the fully new, storyline.
Do you remember when they tried that with Jurassic World?
Yeah.
I can't say that
Yeah.
it failed because that's also one of like the 10
Still amazing.
highest grossing films of all time.
I skipped the second Jurassic World
Oh,
to
you
watch
missed a
the
lot.
third because
Yeah.
it honestly just pulled me back. So I was like, well, I'll watch it because they're in it. I didn't enjoy it, but I did just watch it because they were in it. So it works. It
you
works.
you tune in and you're like, dinosaurs are everywhere now. What? Hello?
Yeah.
They're talking about cloning humans. Hello? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, it's that way of just bringing back what people know.
No.
If they were ever to bring back Iron Man to Avengers, that will still pass. 'Cause people will just go
nobody's
because it's
gonna-
Iron Man.
nobody's
They're
gonna-
not
This
going
doesn't
to.
make sense, but
They're
I'm
not
gonna go
going
watch
to.
it.
I mean,
Exactly.
there's like a minor like comparison of that, I guess, of like trying to bring back another character in a different role. Of like, in my opinion, the Professor X Magneto handoff of like that is a like that's an Ian McKellen Patrick Stewart like duo like. That's what everybody thinks of whenever they think of those two characters, and trying to hand that off to James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender, like both good actors, especially
Great
Michael
actors.
Fassbender. I loved him, but like they're just not the same. They're honestly a lot of homoerotic tension in those movies with those two. So,
yeah.
But it kind of, I think it'd be the same thing with Iron Man. Like, you're never going to get anybody that does it like Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
Nope.
Never going to get anybody.
Which is why Solo, I think, didn't do well. Is
You're never going to get anybody like Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
Recast because you need to,
Yeah.
but no one's going really for Han Solo. They're
Yeah.
going for Harrison Ford as Han Solo.
Well, and you recast everybody.
Yeah.
Like, it's not Billy D. Williams.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's not him. It's
I think even recently he came out saying that he hated his portrayal of Donald Glover's portrayal of
Really?
his character. Yeah, he's like, oh, there's only one.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be like, if I were a cultural phenom and then 40 years later they came back and gave it to some up and comer and they just kind of like butchered it in this like 30% Rotten Tomatoes movie.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'd
That's
be
fair.
pissed.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's enough of us touching on Star Wars and X-Men and Marvel and every other single
Disney.
topic.
We hit-
Disney.
yeah.
I guess it's just Disney in
Disney.
general.
Disney
right?
Yeah.
now.
But
It's hard to talk about without.
yeah, I mean, it's,
They've
Yeah.
it's just-
acquired all of them. So
it's cultural context, you know.
Yeah.
Ugh. Anyways, if you can't tell, I hate Disney.
And on that note,
Not
it was like
Disney,
everything in
but-
here is Disney.
no, it's not.
Well, no,
Those aren't. That's
yet.
Warner Brothers.
not yet.
They
Sorry.
can't buy Harry Potter. Okay, so I think what we'll end up doing next is we'll go over someone else's favorite movies, probably Bryce.
Go first.
You get to hear about Dune, I assume.
Yeah, I
So-
could throw a curveball and do something weird, but we'll probably do Dune.
Yeah. So,
Doo-doo.
Dune.
Doo-doo. Netflix.
Yeah. Okay, so on that note, thank you guys for listening. We'll be here all night.